Super Mario Bros. And Left 4 Dead, two completely different games. But are they really that different? Sure, Super Mario Bros. Is about a tubby little Italian plumber running in two directions trying to save the princess, and Left 4 Dead is a zombie first-person shooter. But if you dig a little deeper, you see that there are some pretty glaring similarities between the two. That's because Valve and Nintendo are much more similar than they seem on the surface. Almost all of their games are gameplay driven, meaning they prioritize interactive mechanics and player agency over story or cinematic elements. That's a fancy way of saying they let you actually play the game and don't fluff it up with cinematics or make you sit through cutscenes. Left 4 Dead has many things that make it special, and if they were adapted for Super Mario Bros., they would not only fit right in, but they would make the games even better than they already are. So let's see what Super Mario Bros. Can learn from Left 4 Dead. First of all, Left 4 Dead was made for multiplayer. It's kind of like having a conversation. It's great in groups, but it's kind of insane if you're doing it alone. The Super Mario Bros. Series has had a complicated history with multiplayer, which is pretty weird considering multiplayer is kind of Nintendo's thing. The first thing the Mario games can learn is allowing players to actually interact with each other in multiplayer. I know we're starting pretty simple here. In the Left 4 Dead games, you can choose to work alongside your friends and get to the end together, or you could choose to be an absolute menace to them. The old Super Mario Bros. Games kinda let you do this, but it wasn't so much helping your friends as it was literally carrying them. And in Super Mario Wonder, you can't even touch your friends. Just hearing that phrase makes me feel like I'm getting scolded by HR again. I think the Super Mario Bros. Games really need a better implementation of multiplayer that supports both a co-op playstyle or an anti-co-op playstyle, because, you know, sometimes I just feel like Shadow. And other times I feel like Shadow, but like when he wants to help everyone. What would further strengthen the multiplayer would be the ability to actually split up. Left 4 Dead lets each player go off on their own and discover themselves, while Super Mario Bros. Forces you to stay attached at the hip, like when SpongeBob fused to Squidward. And that was never really explained, and it still kind of makes me feel icky when I see it. Each person can finish a level on their own in Left 4 Dead, but the game is sure to make you stick together. If you go off on your own, you're bound to get attacked by a special zombie, and you're going to need the help of the other players for that, so you probably want to stay on their good side. However, if you're goated with the sauce, you could just finish the level on your own and not worry about anyone else slowing you down. Unlike Mario, the game allows you to keep that fast pace that it's known for, and you don't have to worry about anyone slowing you down. This also makes it more fun when you do go back and help your friends because it's your choice. It's not the game forcing you into an overbearing relationship. So Mario can learn to allow players to actually interact with each other again and potentially add a split screen or, you know, working online mode that lets each player enjoy the game at their own pace. I don't think split screen is really an issue anymore because our TVs are freaking ginormous now. Obviously, there would be parts where the split screen would have to be disabled, like boss battles and stuff, but again, it's not the end of the world. Multiplayer would be the easiest and most straightforward thing to implement into the Mario games, but I want to dive deeper into the game's design. Left 4 Dead has incredible world building, and I think it would work in the Mario games because of 3 reasons. First of all, it's optional. If you don't want to immerse yourself and you just want to blast zombies, you don't have to waste 1 second analyzing the state of the world you're in. Second, Mario has decades of worlds and lore already built. It just needs to kind of be organized to be put into one game. And third, the pacing is pretty similar. Both games keep a relatively fast pace as you go from point A to point B with a pause in between each level, which will be important to remember in a second here. Left 4 Dead uses this pacing to world build subtly throughout each level and more explicitly in between levels when you're in the safe room. I told you that tidbit would be important in a second. The subtle world building is done through the map design and enemy design. I don't know about you, but I was breezing through these levels like Sonic on Adderall when I was younger. That's our second Sonic reference today. Once I took the red pill and looked around, I saw how dystopian and horrible Left 4 Dead was. The maps had disease control centers that tried to stop the virus, infrastructure was put up to contain the zombies, and the people in the game have pretty realistic reactions and thoughts about the situation and how the government was handling it. But none of this was told to you. In Mario, after Bowser kidnaps the princess and like flip turns the whole kingdom on itself, You just see lava and clouds around Peach's castle. I'm pretty sure the enemies that are in these barren worlds are supposed to be there because Bowser had put them there, but that's never really implied or shown. These flower f***s are kind of sad about the situation. They really make a point to tell you that. A little note here before we keep going. The 3D games do a pretty solid job like painting a picture of the world in the aftermath of whatever destruction is going on. So I don't know why the 2D games don't continue that. The Mario games can learn to show you how the world and its citizens are reacting and adapting to Bowser's takeover. I don't need an anxious flower telling me it's bad. I know it's bad. Show me how you're suffering. It doesn't have to have a heartbreaking commentary on our society, but incorporating a bit of urgency or, showing that a disaster is actively happening in the background can act as a motivator for you to go take down Bowser. The overworld or whatever vehicle in between levels can be that more explicit visual of, oh, it's bad, while the levels can world build more subtly by showing you Bowser's destruction or the citizens' adaptations to the world they're in through the backgrounds and secrets of the level. There are so many locations already developed in the Mario series. It would be so fulfilling to see them actually realize in a 2D game. Mario has the potential and lore to create a living, breathing world. However, if you've played a Mario game before, you're probably familiar with its most controversial issue. Toad is a racist. If you didn't know that, I don't even blame you. The storytelling is so bad, that fact goes over most people's heads. There's a fucking little baby on a scooter outside my window. What is going on? Mario can stand to learn a thing or two about storytelling from Left 4 Dead. And for you story haters out there, don't worry. You're gonna love how Left 4 Dead handles it. The story of Left 4 Dead is way less in your face than pretty much any narrative-driven game ever, I think. You can play the whole game out of order or with the sound off and have just as much fun. There are pretty much no cutscenes other than some exposition shots, and the actual dialogue you have to sit through is very minimal.
Just like how I wish my wife was after I got home from Wake.
The dialogue that does happen explains the story, does more world building, or hints where you have to go next. The important thing is all the story beats in the game happen in real time. You and your hashtag squad go through many different places to get to safety, and when you reach a dead end, you find an escape and hold your ground until it arrives. There's no part where you're just sitting there and watching the story happen. You're always playing it. There are things that happen in between the levels, but they're usually just traveling from one location to another. I will admit though, there are some interesting developments that happen in between some of these levels that I do wish we got to see, but hey, it's neither here nor there. You'll be filled in on what happens through the dialogue that the characters have while you actually get to play the game about like, you didn't have to shoot the pilot.
He was a zombie though.
Oh, okay. That's the story of Left 4 Dead. But going directly from point A to point B would be boring, so there are a lot of little side missions you get to do in some of these levels. Through interactions with NPCs, you're tasked with grabbing a fucking six-pack of Coca-Cola and risking your life for that, or like I said earlier, holding down the fort while rescue arrives. The way the story develops through your many escape vehicles, your goal of getting to safety, and the side missions you need to complete to reach that end goal gives every level and little side trip purpose. How can this guy do this? First, I think there could be like chase sequences or levels you play where the story is actively developing. There could be scripted sequences that you trigger or initiate, and you don't just sit back and watch them happen. You actually get to play through them. And maybe you let me actually move during these parts so I could stop these creepy little things instead of standing there like a dunce. I know Mario isn't huge on story, but letting you play through these little developments can make the games feel so much more alive. Speaking of which, I know the Mario series overall isn't known for its storytelling or world building, but there is so much already there to work with. A good friend of mine, Chips, has over an hour of videos explaining all the different Mario lore, so check out his videos, those are sick. After you finish this one. And I know what you're thinking. It's Mario. It's just a fun game that adults and kids can easily enjoy. And didn't you just make a really good video about casual games, you freaking hypocrite? And what's with the Fitbit? Let's take a step back. First of all, yes, I did just make that video. Thank you for saying it was really good. You can go ahead and check that out after you finish this one, of course. Second of all, I don't know. I like the Fitbit. It's cool. It lets me track my steps. I could track my sleep. Not a sponsor. I just like looking at the stats. They're like life stats. And third, I know it's just Mario. I'm making the video. I've played the games before. I just think these additions can add so much more depth to the games. They can take them to that next level and make it more than just a Mario game. Maybe you don't want these additions or my face on your screen, and that's why Left 4 Dead's implementations would be so effective here. And about the face thing, I'll just let Tobey Maguire finish the video. The game is focused on gameplay first and foremost. It has incredible world building and a gripping story, but it never lets that interfere with the gameplay or pacing. My friend here even said that the horrible state of Left 4 Dead's world and its story didn't even click for him when he was a little boy. He just had fun playing this multiplayer game completely out of order with his friends. Also, check me out in the Spider-Man 3 video game. It's a webload of fun. Okay, Toby, you're done. Left 4 Dead and Super Mario Bros. Are strangely similar games on a fundamental level. Adopting these suggestions in the way that Left 4 Dead handles them means that they will only benefit the Mario games. Left 4 Dead has very fun, simple, yet infinitely replayable gameplay. The story doesn't get old because you don't have to sit through these cutscenes over and over. Developments in the story and cinematic moments directly affect gameplay. They don't feel like they're just here to pad the game with spectacle. And the multiplayer is dynamic and takes the game from great to legendary. All these things combined means the game's fast and constant pacing isn't hindered by these additions, and it's pure fun to enjoy with others. The strange thing is, Super Mario Odyssey did a pretty good job with world building and storytelling. I mean, it's nowhere near Left 4 Dead's, but it's there. Like I said before, I don't know why these things are limited to just the 3D games. The Super Mario Bros. Series can learn from the Left 4 Dead series that having a focus on tight and fun gameplay doesn't mean you have to skimp out on all the other things that make a game legendary. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and ground pound that subscribe button. Comment what your favorite Super Mario Bros. Game is. I know I mostly stuck to the 2D ones, but you can go ahead and cope and tell me that Super Mario Sunshine is the best game. You know, that's your opinion. That's fine. I don't know if I already said it, but thank you for watching.